Business Spotlight, brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.
Joining me today in the studio is a strong, huge advocate of women in business. It's Wendy Dean, CEO of Strategi Solutions. Hi Wendy, how are you doing?
Good afternoon, I'm very well, thank you.
Good, thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
I hope you found it okay and you found your way and you found it into the TARDIS, which is this amazing studio.
It's very nice, I have to say. It's really swish. I didn't expect this.
There you go, see, Cross Rhythms, they're going up in the world. They've gone up in the world, Wendy. But no, thank you for coming in. Now, Wendy, you've been in business for a few years now, which we'll touch on. And you've also been described, and maybe perhaps describe yourself as an accidental CEO. What does that mean? Because you've had a career which is sort of spanned many paths, from receptionist, right up to what you're doing now at Strategi Solutions. But what is an accidental CEO?
It was something that I labelled myself with a while ago, actually, because when I do a lot of mentoring with women, and quite often I get asked the question, how did you manage to become a CEO of your own business? And I started saying, well, it was a bit accidental, really. I never set out to be a CEO, never set out to have my own business. Left school really with just my general qualifications. I went into the sixth form, absolutely hated it. I think over the years I've realised that I'm not very good with people telling me what to do. So I went into sixth form, failed at that really, in terms of sticking it out. My dad said I couldn't leave. It was in the early 80s, so my dad said, you can't leave work at school without getting a job. And I think he thought I wouldn't get a job, and I did.
There you go, you surprised him then.
Yeah, and very early on in my career, I was always very fascinated by CEOs and what they did and how they ran businesses and the skills required. And I've been really, really fortunate to work for some fantastic CEOs who I've worked alongside, been very close with. And I never ever thought in a million years that I would suddenly, be in a situation where I'm doing the same with other people.
Right.
And what I've tried to do is select the best bits from the people that I've worked with and who I've worked for, and I try and put those into practice today. I mean, my business is quite a lot smaller than the businesses I've worked in. So all the way through, I didn't expect to be an HR manager, I didn't expect to be an HR director. And then I didn't expect to be a CEO, so that's why it's accidental. And I think a lot of people end up in that situation where they don't set out to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. I know a lot of people who started out in their own business, just like yourself, Wendy, and starting things from scratch. Even me, I can relate to this. And there's a lot of challenges faced when you're starting off on a business. There's self-belief. For me personally, and a lot of people who I come across, there's that self-confidence, but there's also can be so many different barriers when you're actually starting out on your own. What did you find, when you started out? You've got all this wealth of experience behind you, and like you say, you were inspired perhaps by CEOs, and you learned a lot from some great CEOs who you worked with. But what challenges did you face when you first set off and you pressed the button and you launched?
I think when I worked at A&C stroke FedEx, I'd been there for 19 years. I then moved over to work at Steelite because I knew I wanted to have my own business at some point, maybe not to the level it's at now, maybe just some HR consulting because of the experience I'd got in culture change. And when I went to Steelite, it was to try and work in a different industry because I'd always worked in logistics. It was a very male-dominated industry. And I thought, that would give me other experience. And it did. It gave me loads of experience. I mean, working in the pots was just amazing with the wonderful people. But actually, that was to try and build my own portfolio. Okay. So I gave up a big job, really. I was very well established. And I think the biggest challenge I had was I'd been quite a big... I'd had quite a big role in organisations. I was quite a big player. I'd been there a long time. I knew everybody. And suddenly, on day one, when you're in your bedroom home office, with your papers in front of you, and it's kind of, well, what's next? And I think the biggest challenge is to try and get away from the fact that people will see you because of who you are, because it didn't matter who I was once I set up the business. I'd got to start again, really. You can have all these big jobs, but actually when you're doing it for yourself, you've got to be able to start again. And I got a little bit of that when I went from FedEx to Steelite because I'd been there a long time. you know, I knew the business inside out, and I kind of expected a little bit of that to happen when you know, I've come from this big FedEx, you know, and it didn't. And I'd got this box of belongings, and people were like kind of saying, well, who are you?
Yeah.
And so I'd had a bit of experience, so I was probably a little bit prepared for it. But when you first make those phone calls to try and make appointments with people and they say no, or, you know, I'm not interested, or I've already got somebody for this, that's a little bit scary.
Yeah, it can be quite daunting, can't it?
Yeah.
And it can be quite overwhelming as well. And you start to think, what have I done? Or, you know, did you have that moment? Did you sit there and think, what am I doing? I need to go back.
No, I didn't actually.
Cool.
And the reason I didn't is because I'd made a lot of networks with people, especially in the logistics sector. So even though I'd gone into manufacturing, it was the logistics sector that came good for me, really. So a lot of people that I'd worked with on the board at ANC, they'd gone on to some fantastic businesses to become their own CEOs of their own businesses. And they knew the kind of thing that I could do in terms of culture change. And quite often the businesses they'd gone into needed to change. So they contacted me and said, you know, can you do me 2 days a week? Can you do me a day a week? And very quickly I was like, hang on a minute, you know, I haven't got enough time now. So I was really, really lucky that I'd got those people, and I'd be forever grateful for what they did for me, really.
Yeah, and that culture change as well. And again, the different cultures that you've experienced, you know, throughout your career. Having the right culture in business as well, you know, handing that down when you're growing staff, when you're growing the business. Again, how important and how valuable is that for success?
It's really important. When you're an employee of an organisation, you're kind of carrying out somebody else's vision and values, and you do that to the best of your ability with your own twist on it, probably. When you've got your own business, you've got a blank piece of paper, but that can be quite daunting, because it's, well, what do I want that culture to look like? How do I want people to feel? And you get it wrong sometimes, you know, and I've had that in the time, the 8 years I've had the business, that sometimes people don't like that culture, and you have to accept that it's not for everybody. And what you can't do is keep changing the culture to suit every individual. You kind of have to nail your colours to the mast and say, right, this is what I'm going to do, and this is, you know, and you might tweak it along the way, but you've got to stay true to your own values, really, in order to be authentic.
And no, definitely 100% agree with that as well. And it is important, like you're saying. I think you just mentioned there, stay true to yourself, and stay true to your beliefs, but you know, make sure you're doing and ensuring you're doing the right things in the right way, and also looking after others as well. And one of the things, Wendy, you know, I'm quite keen to explore with you here on Business Spotlight is also women in business. Now, we've mentioned general sort of, you know, challenges when starting up your own business, when trying to grow a business, but you are a very strong advocate of women in business and the things that you do. Again, can you elaborate on anything there on why you are such a strong advocate of that?
Yes, I can. Having worked in a very, very, very male-dominated environment in logistics, and it was at the time when I was in it, I got helped a lot by men, and you know, I'm not a man basher at all. I've learned most of what I know by some really great guys that have got some fantastic skills. So I realised, you know, that eventually I was the only woman on the board there, so we needed to get other women on the board, which we did. And I think sometimes, you know, women get to the top and then they kind of pull the ladder up a bit. And I didn't want to be one of those people. And I saw that you know, I was very welcomed into my group, and you know, I can't say that it was difficult in that way with working with men. But I saw a lot of women who suffered from imposter syndrome. I've also seen a lot of men that do as well, so it's not just women. Yeah. But I think women are more, they show it more, and they're more open to talk about it. And I suppose really it was very hard for women to get into that group. Even though I was there trying to encourage them, it was still really hard for them. And then I've seen that in other organisations I've worked with. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is I want women to feel that, you know, men suffer from it too. It's not just women. And, you know, sometimes you just got to say, I'm going to do this. Imposter syndrome is still massive for a lot of women. I mentor probably, at the moment, I've got about 10 women I mentor, and I do that voluntarily. And everyone suffers from the same kind of thing, the imposter syndrome. Should I be here? And when they're setting out on their own businesses, you know, I was very focused about what I wanted to do. Fortunately, you know, I've been very lucky to have support at home. I haven't got children. I haven't had to worry about that. And I see the pressures that women are under of, trying to make a name for themselves, trying to get the business going, as well as having all these other pressures and responsibilities.
Yeah.
So what I try and do is to help them shortcut through some of the stuff. So I will sit with women and they'll say, oh, I've got this. I say, well, you don't need to worry about that. Just think about this. And they come back and say, yeah, I don't know why I was worrying about that. So it's very rewarding as well to be able to do that for other women.
I suppose that's a little bit of a reassurance as well, that, what you do there voluntarily to support other women. It's sometimes you need a soundboard even, in business or sometimes in any way of life, where you do want to bounce something off, but just have a reassurance you are in sound mind sometimes when you're so busy to make such a big decision on some things as well.
That's right. And, there are thousands of coaches out there, and I'm not knocking coaches in any way, because I think there's a massive role for coaches to play in business for men and women. But I think sometimes people just need that shortcut of, I don't want to find out for myself. I don't want to work it out for myself. Do I need to do this or not? Yes or no? And quite often, once they build that confidence, they start to do it for themselves then.
Yeah, totally. I can understand that. And the other thing is, well, Wendy, you've taken this a little bit as well into sport. And I believe you've got a little interest in golf. And why women don't play golf, the programme. Can you elaborate? I mean, what is that all about? And when did this start, actually? When did this come about?
Well, it started out probably when I set up Strategi, really. And it was a conversation I had with somebody about why women don't do things and why women don't feel part of, the senior leadership team. And what came about is I started to think back about my life. And I've already said I was always being encouraged by men, and I've worked with some great men. But the only thing where I probably didn't have confidence was on the company golf day.
Right.
And they'd organise the company golf day. All the directors would go along, and
these are quite popular, aren't they? These golf days.
I'm afraid they are. Yes. Yeah. And people, the men would go, and they'd all go along and have a great day, and I never went. And I'd say, no, I'll stay behind and look after the company, and I'll make sure everything's okay. And looking back, I thought, why did I do that? And the reason I didn't do it is because the first thing I would think of is, what do I wear? The second thing is, am I going to make a fool of myself? The third thing would have been, do I want to be joking around with blokes all day when there's a job to do? And I realised that environment is okay for men. And men that couldn't play golf would just go along and hack their way around the course, and it didn't bother them. But I wouldn't do that. And as I talk to more and more women, that is the case, really, that you think of all these other things first before actually, well, what's it all about? And I think women have a massive issue with going on to self-development programs. They see it as a treat, or it's something that they can't afford the money to do, when actually men would think nothing of it in general. I'm generalising a bit, but so I created a program, or I created an idea called Why Women Don't Play Golf. That then has developed over the years to the point now where I've got a two-day retreat that I run for women, and it's all about us, and it's about developing ourselves. Yes, it covers imposter syndrome, it covers all sorts of things to do with the management piece, but it covers about things like, how do we feel about ourselves? What do we look like? What do we sound like? What words do we use? Because we use different words to men in the boardroom. And it's about that self-reflection and, coming out of it thinking, well, actually, I need to just behave a little bit differently, and then things will be easier. So that's where it came from. And I still see golf days advertised all over LinkedIn with just men only. And so, I don't think it's changed that much really over the years. And I just think women like other things.
Yeah. It's I mean, just to touch, I've worked in the sports world over my career, again, which was very male dominated at the time, and probably still is quite a lot, even though I've been away from it for quite a bit. But there's something there that really sort of resonated when you say, women can perhaps sometimes talk in a different way or use different language, and that's okay. It's just how sometimes some women tend to talk like that and some don't. And for that to be acceptable in a boardroom as well, it's just a different way of doing business.
That's right. And we know that where a board has at least one female on it, it's more likely to be 20% more profitable. So women do add value into the boardroom, but we've got to, we have to understand we don't have to behave like men to be as successful and to sit alongside the men. There are some great podcasts out there, as you probably know. There's all sorts of things out there, but the one that resonates with me the most is the one that says actually, instead of trying to fit our chair at the table, that's, the chair's a bit rickety, it might not fit, you might be squeezing your way in, you just build your own table.
Yeah.
It can still be in the boardroom, but it might just be a different table.
Yeah, and on that as well, Wendy, that can actually be relatable to anybody, whether you're female or male, sitting at your own table, designing your own table, designing your own seat, and bringing again your values through for your business. I strongly believe, and I think that's quite important. There's one other thing I want to mention, though, Wendy.
It's not the first time that's happened.
Wednesday, anyway, Wednesdays, because it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. Yeah.
But one other thing I do want to mention, and something to congratulate you on as well, is your award, your Lifetime Achievement Award. You won the Gold Award. And this is at the National Business Women's Awards celebrations last year, 2023.
Yes, it was. It was the end of last year. Thank you very much.
No, it's huge congratulations. I mean, did you, when you got that award and when you received that award, I mean, when you think back now and everything that we've just been discussing about where you started in your career and starting your own business, like you say, whether you're sitting there and you're going through your paperwork in your bedroom, you're hiding, holding your head in your hands or anything like that, to then be presented with an award like this, I mean, what must that feel like for you?
I can't describe, actually. I think it would probably we'd go way over this time limit, but I'm always very keen on supporting others and supporting other women. As you know, I sit on the board of the Women of the Year Awards as well.
Yeah.
Heavily involved in that. And I'm always pushing other women forward. And I'm always encouraging people and nominating people and trying to get other people to do things. And even with my own business, we do enter awards, and we've won some awards. But actually, when it's for you and it's for what you've done yourself, it's very humbling.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect that it would give me the feeling that it did. I felt it was like a bit of an accomplishment, really.
Yeah.
For all that time I spend, trying to help others, especially women. And I've savoured it, and it's very, very special to me. And, I didn't think it would be that special to me.
Yeah. Recognition as well, all that, what you say, all that hard work and everything that you do and supporting others. I mean, you've mentioned, the golf program, why women don't play golf, and everything that you do there. You're volunteering to help other women in a mentoring fashion as well, building your business. Huge congratulations again, honestly, Wendy. Everybody loves to be thanked for what they do. So I can only imagine how that must feel when you got that award. Now, the other awards that you mentioned that you sponsor, Strategi Solutions sponsor these awards.
Yes,
do you want
we
to just touch on them and what's happening this year?
Yeah, I got involved in Women of the Year. Zelina Vandrawala, who works, she's the chair of the Women of the Year Awards. She'd been watching what we're doing on social media, because obviously we do branding and marketing for companies. And she just contacted me because she's local, and she said, I've seen the stuff you're doing. We'd done a rebrand for Utoxeter Racecourse, and we'd done a rebrand for Hanley Economic. And she said, could you have a look at our branding? I don't want much of a change to it. And I said, yeah. So we actually ended up rebranding the whole company. We do all the marketing, we do all the social media for it now. So I got involved in that way, really, and we became a key sponsor. So we're one of the big key sponsors. And then she asked me if I wanted to be an ambassador because of everything that I do, which I agreed to do, which was about encouraging other women to apply, and being part of the event and making sure that we raise the profile. And then at the middle of last year, she said, would you like to join the board? We think it would be really good to have you on the board. And I jumped at the chance, really, because it's such a fantastic event, and it makes me feel great about things. So yes, I got involved. I said yes last year, and I'm so happy to be doing it. It's so exciting.
Another challenge.
Well, yeah. If you want anything doing, give it to a busy person. Is that what they say?
Totally.
Yeah.
So how do people find out about these awards then?
They can go on the website. It's womenoftheyear.org.uk, and the nominations are about to go live in March.
Ooh.
So we have the kind of the big opening event and the launch event in March, and that's normally at the House of Lords in London. Which is great. We invite all the key sponsors together, and we talk about what's for the year ahead. And then from then on up until October, when the event is, which will be at the Etihad Stadium this year in Manchester, which is new. It's always been in Birmingham, so it's moving to Manchester. Then people are nominated. We then have a judging panel, and we do the judging during the summer months, and then it goes through from there. So that it's not a massive amount of awards. We have very few awards. That it's about the celebrating women, and it's it's about business women. It's about women in the community. It's about women with edge, and then there's a massive celebration, and we have people who are from MasterChef that create the menu for the lunch, which is really nice. Sally Lindsay is our president, and she's a fantastic host. She makes it great. We have entertainment. So tables can be booked online, nominations. And I would say Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire, please nominate women from the area, because we are quite underrepresented sometimes.
We need to change that, don't we?
We certainly do. Yeah. And Man City, to go to a place where football is played, especially with the female footballers that we have, and the success that the Lionesses have had, it's a great bringing together of the two things, really.
So give us that website address once more, Wendy. So anybody who's interested in whether it's just finding out more about the awards, going along, or even nominating somebody from, like you mentioned, Stoke-on-Trent or Staffordshire, where can they go?
womenoftheyear.org.uk.
womenoftheyear.org.uk. And one final question. I'm not letting you go, Wendy. Going back again, everything you've done in your career, doing your business, if there was one, if you can think of just one vital tip you would give to anybody, whether they've just started out in business or they're looking to start out in business, no matter of age, background, or anything, what would it be?
Good question. My tip would be, if you are told no or you come up against resistance, keep going. The amount of times I see people give up at the first hurdle and they miss out on some fantastic opportunities. So really keep going until it's absolutely impossible to move forward any further.
Wendy Dean, CEO of Strategi Solutions, here on Business Spotlight in partnership with Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.
Business Spotlight, shining a light on our local business community. Brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.